This video is not a direct attack on any one person, but it is challenging the way that most people teach improvisation. Now, the big problem with learning improvisation is that people make this complicated instead of simplifying it, making you feel overwhelmed and struggling to make consistent progress. If you're like most players, you're stuck trying to analyze every chord in the song, trying to remember which scale fits where, and by the time you figured it out, the moment has passed. In this video, I will share my method that will completely change your relationship with learning to improvise in any genre, allowing you to create music instead of playing music theory. The best musicians all use this approach, including my guitar hero, George Benson.
This is the way I think of guitar. I always condense things down to the simplest form. That way I don't have to remember too many things.
My name is Chase Maddox. I'm a professional guitarist for over 20 years. I've helped hundreds of students just like you inside Chase's Guitar Academy. This lesson has 3 simple steps. Step 1, I'll first show you the bad way to learn to improvise so that you can run from anyone teaching you this way. Step 2, I will show you a much simpler and more musical approach to improvising. And then step 3, I'll demonstrate in real time so you hear a bunch of examples and see that this approach actually works. All right, so let's do this bad way first. And we'll use the song Wave because it has a lot of chord changes and it is ripe for explanation in this bad method. We have the chord changes here, and what we would do in this bad method is analyze every single chord and what scale we can play over, right? So D major, this song is in the key of D major, so that's our 1 major 7. Maybe we play D major. Next up, we have a B flat diminished chord, right? So we could think about that as a flat 6 diminished, and then we could play B flat diminished scale from B flat. And the next part, A minor and D7 going into G major. Well, that's a 2-5-1 to the 4 chord. And then we have a G minor 6, which is a 4 minor. Now, if you're getting confused at any point, that is sort of the point that I'm trying to make, is that we have a lot of stuff going on here. And just stick with me because in a second, I'll show you how we can get away from all of this and really just play through this simply. After that 4 minor, then we have F sharp dominant going to altered, right? So that's our 3-7 dominant into our 6-7 dominant, and then altered 2-7, little flat 6-5, and then we have this little 2-5, but it's on our root. So, you know, maybe we need to think about how to analyze that, or maybe we should try a more musical way of going about all of this and not have to bog down our memory and our musicianship, our own internal creativity, by trying to fit to certain scales. So let me show you how we can do that. Let's take a small section of the song first, and then we'll apply it to the whole thing. Let's just take this part, G major, going to G minor, F sharp 7, F sharp altered, and B7. Let's take those 4 measures, right? This is a hard part of the song for a lot of people. So in this method, what we might do is try and apply a scale to each of those and then use those scales for improvising. So G major, maybe we use G major scale, or we think about this in the terms of the key, D major, and we play this as G Lydian. Then we go to G minor. G minor 6, we could use G minor over that. Now we have F sharp dominant and F sharp altered. We could apply some different chord scales to this, right? So F sharp mixolydian for the F sharp 7. B7, we could do B mixolydian, right? So you get the point. We have a lot of scales here. And the song moves pretty fast, right? So after every 4 beats, we have a new scale. It gets really difficult to keep track of that and to play anything that connects from one to the next. So instead of doing that, what I'm recommending is we simplify this so that we can play melodies. And this is a big part that a lot of people miss, is when we get better at improvising, we actually want to simplify down to just the essentials so that we can actually play music. Here's one way we could do that. G major, you play G major. G minor, you play G minor. F sharp altered actually also comes from the G melodic minor scale. So that's just 2 measures of G minor. And then B7, well, F sharp minor and B7 all go together. So that's really just F sharp minor. What we have here is using the theory to simplify instead of complicate. And it actually doesn't even need the theory. All we really need to do is find a few notes that work on one chord, and then when we go to the next chord, figure out which of those needs to change. So let me demonstrate over this small section so you can start to hear what this process sounds like. G major, G minor, G minor again, down to F sharp minor. Let's do it again. G major, G minor, G minor. So I'm just trying to come up with melodies. Super simple. Just 3 notes there. So one way that you can start to figure out how to find these melodies, these simple melodies, when you're improvising over this, is actually to learn the melody of the song. And Waves is a great example, because if we look at the melody at this section, the G major, we really only have 3 notes that are happening over this whole 4-measure part. So make sure you're learning the melody and using that as a guide, not just to connect to the melody, although that's important, but because it's actually telling you a simple way of going through these chord changes. That's really what the melody is. It's a great way to connect through these chord changes. And we want to rely on that path. The second technique that I want to share with you guys is picking 3 notes, and then as the chord changes, changing those notes to fit that chord. And this will keep your ideas connected to your previous idea. So let's take this example of that G major. If I have an idea here, let's do a different one from the F sharp, G, and A. That is its own 3-note group, right, that we could use. But let's do B, D, and E over G major. When it goes to G minor, that B has to go to B flat because that's what fits the chord. When we have the F sharp altered, it's still G minor, so we're just going to keep those notes. And then B7, these notes have to shift down from G minor to this F sharp minor. So let's try and improvise using just that 3-note group. Again. All right, so those are a few examples. And if you do that with different 3-note groups throughout the fretboard in whatever position you're in, it will allow you to start hearing these things naturally. So a big question you might have at this point is, how are you going to figure this out for an entire song or all the songs that you're playing? And I really don't think you should try and figure it out by yourself. It helps so much to have an actual experienced teacher to move your progress along that much faster. Save yourself the time and frustration. All of the great musicians have had teachers in one way or another. I've benefited from so many great teachers, and that has just accelerated my progress decades, easily. So what I would do is try to find a great teacher. If you want to work with me, you can join the Chase's Guitar Academy 7-day free trial. Just click the link in the description. This concept and this thing that we just went over today was actually something that was inspired from one of my own students within Chase's Guitar Academy. And we discussed this in an AMA that we had actually just this last week. So you get a lot of that kind of personal attention, and that help is directed at the people within there personally. So I'd love to help you. If that is of interest to you, just check out Chase Guitar Academy below. All right, let's play over this whole tune.